Kenya is one of the most important countries in East Africa, not only because of its size and population, but because of where it sits and what it connects. Officially called the Republic of Kenya, it is home to more than 54 million people as of the mid-2020s, making it one of Africa's most populous nations. Its capital, Nairobi, is also its largest city and one of the region's major political, financial, and transport centers. Kenya is often imagined through safari landscapes and wildlife, but that is only one part of a much larger story. The country combines ancient human origins, coastal trade, colonial struggle, modern urban growth, agriculture, tourism, and regional diplomacy into one complex national identity. Kenya's geography helps explain much of its role in the region. It lies on the eastern side of Africa, bordered by South Sudan to the northwest, Ethiopia to the north, Somalia to the east, Tanzania to the southwest, and Uganda and Lake Victoria to the west. To the southeast, Kenya opens onto the Indian Ocean, giving it access to maritime trade routes that have connected Africa, Arabia, and Asia for centuries. This position makes Kenya both an inland gateway and a coastal country. Goods, people, and ideas have long moved through its ports, roads, and highland corridors. Its borders also place it near the Horn of Africa, the Great Lakes region, and the wider East African interior. One of Kenya's defining features is its dramatic environmental variety. In the west and central highlands, landscapes can be fertile, green, and cool, with temperate climates that support farming and dense settlement. Mount Kenya, one of Africa's highest mountains, rises with snow-capped peaks such as Badian, Nelion, and Point Lenana, surrounded by forests and important ecosystems. But Kenya is not only highlands and savanna. Other regions are dry, arid, or semi-arid, including desert areas such as the Chalbai Desert and Nairi Desert. This contrast shapes daily life. Some communities depend on farming in fertile zones, while others rely on pastoralism, trade, or adaptation to dryland environments. Kenya's cities reveal another side of the country. Nairobi, the capital, is a major commercial hub for East and Central Africa. It hosts businesses, international organizations, government institutions, universities, and a fast-growing urban population. Mombasa, the second largest and oldest major city, has a very different character. Located on Mombasa Island along the Indian Ocean, it is a historic port city shaped by centuries of trade and cultural exchange. Other important urban centers include Kisumu near Lake Victoria, Nakuru in the Rift Valley, and Eldoret in the Western Highlands. Together, these cities show how Kenya is not centered on only one region, but linked by multiple economic and cultural poles. Kenya is also central to the story of human origins. Some of the earliest evidence connected to the evolution of humans and ancestral members of the genus Homo has been found within its borders. Sites such as Kobifora have produced fossil evidence that help scientists understand how early humans developed, moved, and adapted over deep time. This means Kenya's history does not begin with kingdoms, colonial borders, or modern politics. It reaches back into the earliest chapters of humanity itself. Long before written records, the region was inhabited by communities whose ways of life were shaped by hunting, gathering, migration, climate change, and the search for food and water. Over thousands of years, different peoples moved into and across what is now Kenya. Early hunter-gatherer communities lived in the region, and later migrations brought Cushitic-speaking groups into lowland areas between roughly 3200–1300 BC. This period is associated with pastoral societies that raised animals and adapted to savanna environments. Around 500 BC, Nilotic-speaking pastoralists, ancestral to many of Kenya's Nilotic-speaking communities, began moving southward from areas near present-day South Sudan. Bantu-speaking peoples later settled along the coast and in the interior between around 250 BC and 500 AD. These movements did not create a single culture, instead, they formed Kenya's deep ethnic, linguistic, and regional diversity. Kenya's coast became especially important because of its connection to the Indian Ocean world. Long before modern borders, the coastal region was part of a trading network linking East Africa with Arabia, Persia, India, and beyond. Mombasa grew as a port city in this wider commercial zone. European contact began around 1500 with the Portuguese Empire, which sought control over Indian Ocean trade routes. But European presence did not immediately mean full control of the interior. For centuries, power along the coast shifted among local, regional, and foreign influences. This coastal history helps explain why Kenya's identity includes both inland African traditions and long-standing oceanic connections. Effective European colonization of Kenya came much later, in the 19th century, during the European scramble for influence in Africa. The British Empire established the East Africa Protectorate in 1895, and Kenya later became a colony in 1920. Mombasa served as the capital of the British East Africa Protectorate from 1889 to 1907, before Nairobi rose in importance. British rule transformed land ownership, labor systems, transport routes, and political authority. Railways and colonial administration linked inland areas to the coast, but these changes often benefited settlers and imperial interests at the expense of African communities. Colonial Kenya became a place of economic extraction, racial hierarchy, and growing resistance. Resistance to colonial rule eventually became a defining part of Kenya's modern history. One of the most important conflicts was the Mau Mau Uprising, which began in 1952. It emerged from deep grievances over land, political exclusion, forced labor, and colonial repression, especially among communities affected by settler expansion in the highlands. The conflict was brutally fought and heavily suppressed, but it changed the political future of the colony. It made clear that colonial rule could not continue indefinitely without major resistance. Kenya achieved independence in 1963 and remained a member of the Commonwealth of Nations. Independence did not erase every colonial legacy, but it marked a decisive shift towards self-government. Today, Kenya is a presidential representative democratic republic. In this system, elected officials represent citizens, while the president serves as both head of state and head of government. Kenya participates actively in international institutions, including the United Nations, the Commonwealth, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the World Trade Organization, COMESA, and the International Criminal Court. It is also recognized as a major non-NATO ally of the United States. These memberships reflect Kenya's diplomatic importance. The country is often involved in regional trade, security cooperation, development policy, and international negotiations. Its political influence extends beyond its borders because stability in Kenya affects the wider East African region. Kenya's economy is the largest in East and Central Africa, and Nairobi functions as a major regional commercial hub. The country is classified as a lower middle-income economy, with a per capita gross national income of about $2,110. Agriculture remains the largest sector, employing many people and shaping rural life. Tea and coffee have long been traditional cash crops, connecting Kenyan farms to global markets. In recent decades, fresh flowers have become a fast-growing export, especially to Europe. These exports show how Kenya's climate zones, highland agriculture, transport links, and international trade relationships combine. At the same time, agriculture remains vulnerable to drought, market shifts, and infrastructure challenges. Services are another major part of Kenya's economy, especially tourism. The country's wildlife reserves, national parks, beaches, mountains, and cultural heritage attract visitors from around the world. Tourism supports hotels, transport, conservation, guiding, restaurants, and local businesses, but it also depends on security, environmental protection, and global travel trends. Kenya is also part of the East African Community Trade Bloc, strengthening its ties with neighboring economies. Africa is Kenya's largest export market, followed by the European Union. In the end, Kenya matters because it brings together geography, history, culture, and commerce in one strategic place. It is a country of ancient roots and modern influence, shaped by both local realities and global connections. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.